Hi everybody, welcome back to another Stoneforge gaming video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a board that I did for a Mordheim campaign that me and my wife were playing, or are playing. Now this board is roughly 3 by 3. You can see basically the rough size of it. My table is actually about 3.5 by 3.5, so it's actually pretty decently sized. You can see there are a couple of rough edges. That's just where my saw cut it a little bit odd. So just kind of going back to the very beginning, I will show you what this is actually made out of. And this, if this will focus, you can see here this is a very thin type of MDF. Now, the reason I used MDF is because for the weight purposes, it's very light by comparison to other woods. That also brings into the durability factor, where many other types of wood that weigh the same amount are much more flimsy. And so instead of basically going with something that would be much thicker, I can go thin while still keeping that level of durability and strength so that it can bend. As you can see, as you saw kind of when I was doing this, you can bend and flex this all day long. It's not going to do anything. It's going to eventually kind of fold back down to its normal shape. So what I did was I cut this into the rough size that I wanted to go with, and then once that was done, basically the way this MDF came was actually something that was in my garage. One side was already factory painted and the other side was just regular rough MDF. And so what I decided to do was I took the side that was painted already and I used that as my smooth side that would go against our table, so that not to kind of scratch this nice little table we have here. On the top, however, what I decided to go for was, you guys have all seen my my snow terrain showcase, I'm sure, and this is to kind of match that, because that's the terrain that I have sitting around my house most of the time. The Borderlands style terrain generally gets sent over to where I play Kings of War, and so I don't necessarily have that all around at my house. So for this, I decided to go with what I have on hand and kind of match that. So what I did was I took a mix of fine grit, sand, and wood glue, and mixed those together and kind of created a very thin paste to go along the surface of this, and then kind of glued it all down. And I made the wood glue a little bit watery, so you can see how it kind of fades in different spots, so you have these different very interesting textures. And what I was kind of going for was the idea that this wasn't necessarily like a cobblestone street. It was more of like just paved, but not really. It was just kind of more generic and standardized. So once I got that all done, I used you can kind of see some of the different brownish tones and things like that I threw in there, because I used my how to paint rock, realistic rock techniques. So those of you who have seen that video, you'll kind of get the gist of how exactly I painted this rock here, or this kind of stony surface. And so I painted this up with a couple of layers of washes and dry brushes and things like that. And then I added the last finishing touches, which is the blood effects and the snow effects. Now, the blood effects is actually I did the same exact way that I do my blood effects in the how to paint blood effects video that I did a little while ago, and I use the same exact compound, the same exact mixture that I made up there, and I use it in these different spots just to kind of simulate that. I mean, if it was for Mordheim, so figure people are dying all over the place, and if you wanted to kind of make some little diorama sort of scene where there's bodies laying around, this will just kind of add to it. So I just kind of place these around the board, but I wanted to keep this very thin, so I didn't want to add like too much viscera or anything like that that would like catch on a building if you wanted to set a building down near it, and then maybe look like some little old farmhouse or old I don't know, granary or something like that, was somebody was killed right inside and they fell inside the door or something like that. So I like I say, I wanted to kind of spice up the otherwise bland sort of generic rock texture, first with the blood effects and then with the snow effects. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but I added some very fine, yeah, you can kind of see the outline there, some very fine snow effects to several areas on the board. That would be the more white sort of look that you're getting there. This one over here is a little more stark, and you can kind of see what I was going for. Now, what I did here was I actually used Woodland Scenics Soft Lake Snow, and you can just apply that with a layer of PVA glue, white glue. And you can make a very thin, like you can see, I didn't make any mounds, again, because I didn't want to get in the way of any sort of buildings or anything like that we wanted to put down. I did another patch over here. And so what I did was I laid this down. First you layer your glue down in a thin sort of coat, and then you kind of sprinkle on this other stuff, and then you wait. I generally wait 24 hours to fully let the glue dry, and then once that's done, you tip the whole board up and then you shake it off, and when that's done, you're left with this, which is a very, very durable, and you can go over and recoat it again with a watered down PVA mix, which is I did not do that here just because I didn't find it necessary. I mean, we're not being overly rough. It's just me and my wife that's using this. If you were doing something for like a gaming club, you might want to, because that's going to get a lot more use. So you probably want to seal that in. So, as I say, I wanted to add a little bit of more spice to this otherwise kind of rocky texture, and I think it came out really, really well. If you guys are interested in seeing any videos on exactly how I did this, how I made the textures, how I did the snow effects, anything like that, or you just want to see any ideas on just how to create other types of boards, I've had some different ideas. So if anybody is interested, you can leave some comments down below, and I will come back with another Stoneforge gaming video. See you guys.